Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining me on 10 Minute Tuesday. This is episode six. Six is my favorite number, so I'm really excited to have this one. I have my good friend, Tableau ambassador, Tableau public author cohort person. We connected that way. Dzifa Amexo on here. So, really appreciate you joining. Thank you so much for joining.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Six is a dope number, so I know it's going to be good vibes, good
Yeah.
episode. Really excited to see this launch.
Yeah,
So,
I can't wait. I'm glad you're on here. So let's go ahead and hop into it. Go ahead and just introduce yourself.
yeah, so I currently work as a data technology analyst at Keyrus, also Tableau public ambassador, or Tableau social. I was public, switched over. And outside of that, I live in New York City. That's like half my personality trait now. Love going to brunch, karaoke. I'm on Twitter way too much. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
I love it. That's so great. That's so great. So, definitely got the New York vibes in the mix. But at one point, you actually got into data, and you're into data. You're a data analyst now. So, how did
Yes.
you even get into your role? What made you want to get into data?
Yeah, this story is so crazy whenever I tell it, and it could be like an entire 10-minute TED talk, but we're not going to do that and give you the little highlights. But really, what it was is I went to college. I always knew I wanted to do business. I kind of stumbled into analytics. And from there, I also stumbled upon like the Tableau community. I took a class and I was like, oh, Tableau is really cool. Stumbled on the community. And if you had asked me like 5 years ago, like what I'd be doing, it probably wouldn't be this. I think it really happened in this weird sort of fate like energy. And it really had to do with, I think, connecting with people with like no intention. It wasn't like, oh, I'm like connecting with people to like get a job. I didn't think that like the connections that I made would lead to me getting the job that I have now today. Shout out to Adam Miko here for the company I'm at now. But I think what really like piqued my initial interest with data analytics is I've always been like a math geek, loved math. And I wouldn't really call myself like a storyteller or like a creative person, but I've discovered that I am, and that I like the intersection of like being able to like do a little bit of stats, not like too much, but also have that creative aspect, have that storytelling aspect, be able to really affect change through communicating something that's important. So I didn't even know that this was a career though, to be honest. Like in high school, you go through stats and they're like, oh, you can be like an actuary, and I was like, that seems boring, so I'm not going to do that. But now I enjoy my job, so it worked out.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful story. That's great to hear. And it's one of those things is like with this role, it's like you still have that creative outlet, but then you have the logical
Exactly.
piece of it as well. It's like a good merger
Yes,
of the two.
exactly.
So that's beautiful. So we all have a journey. We heard your journey. You didn't even think you would get into data analytics, but before that, you were doing other things and you had different jobs. So to date, what's been your least favorite job?
That is a good question because I was like teetering back and forth. I've had this is like now my only second job post grad, but like I've done a few internships, jobs in college, and by far, I guess I'll caveat it's like a love hate relationship. But I was an RA my sophomore year of college, and I loved the social aspect, like being able to like create a community, make these events, like talk to my residents. That part I was like, I love this. The admin stuff, I also love that because I'm a very like type A person. Like Google Calendar is my life. But I despise confrontation. And that's probably like 75% of the job. Like you have to mediate, you have to break up things. And there was just a lot of things that quite literally pushed me out of my comfort zone in a good way. Like it definitely developed a lot of character in me. But I think it was like those 4 a.m. nights where I get a call and it'd be like, oh, someone doesn't want to share their ID to get in the building. And I'm like, this is the most basic thing. Like it's really not that serious. Had me like questioning everything. So it was definitely a love hate relationship. Like it taught me a lot. I think it pushed me to do something that I don't normally do. I still don't like confrontation, but at least now I know I can handle it.
Yeah.
And I did get free room and board, so that was also a perk. Well, plus and minus, plus and minus.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I was an RA in college too, so I totally get what you're coming. So the free room and board is definitely a great perk, right? You can't
Yes.
beat it. But then those 3 a.m. lockout calls, 4 a.m. lockout calls, like, come on, man, just remember your
Yes.
key. Like, what's going on? Like, why are you waking me
No,
up?
literally.
Oh man, that's
I remember the
perfect.
struggle.
Yeah, that's perfect. Oh my goodness, that's so good. I didn't know you're RA, so I learned something new every time. All right.
Yes.
So in here now, so you like I said, we talk about a journey. But as you're growing into your role, what's been one of your biggest failures that you have? And it didn't have to be data analyst related, but just something in your career. Like, what's one of the biggest failures that you had? And then, really, what did you take away from it?
Yeah, lots of failures to choose from. Without exposing like where it was in my journey, I do remember this time where I was like working on a project. And of course, like with anything, it doesn't matter what field you're in, like you have like an initial conversation. They say like, oh, we want you to do X, Y, Z, and someone's like explaining to you what they want. And so they like explained it once, and I was like, okay, I know exactly like what they want. I don't even know if I took notes, which is like a red flag. But I went back and I like did the entire project, and I struggled through it so hard too. Like it took me a lot of effort. But at the end of the day, like we went to go like present it, and it was totally wrong. Like if this was like A, it was at like Z. Like it was totally, I don't know what I heard or like what I interpreted. It was so off like what the original thing was. And like luckily like it wasn't the end of the world, but I that like low key still lives rent free in my head. But it taught me that when you're like in any sort of scenario and someone like asks you to do something, number one, like repeat it back to them. So now I do the whole like, oh, so what you're saying is XYZ, because oftentimes, or probably like every time for me, the first time I hear it, I like miss 75% of it. So that's one. And then number two, ask for help. Like I struggled through it and it was wrong. So it was like I put in so much effort for literally nothing when I could have, number one, like repeated it back, or number two, like asked for help or been like, hey, like did you catch this on the meeting? But I was like too embarrassed to do that. And it ended up luckily being like not the end of the world. But from then on, I was like, okay, I don't care if I look dumb. I'm just going to repeat it back so that everyone knows that we're on the same page and I don't have to waste my time and everyone else's time. So that was a good lesson. Not in the moment, but after I was like, okay, I appreciated that I had to go through this.
Yeah, yeah. The sting of going through that process and the I won't say the pain, but the feelings of like, okay, this doesn't feel good. I don't
Yeah.
like this. I never want to feel like this again. Is one of those definitely pivotal
Yes.
moments. And a consistent theme that I'm hearing, right? 6 episodes in, but everybody has been like, hey, ask for help. Like,
Yes.
raise your hand and just ask for help. Like, it will just pay out more on the back end when you actually do raise your hand.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So you talked about it, right? You're data analyst now. You're in your role, you're in your mix. But what's one piece of advice that you would give someone who's just starting out?
Ooh, okay. So I'll do two, which is kind of like breaking the rules, but I'll do one like data specific. I think it's so important to have a portfolio. Like I will say my degree was in like finance and analytics, so I probably had like a little bit of what's the word? Like I had a decent enough background that's related to the field, but I think there is such like a huge opportunity for people that don't come from like a traditional background to enter this field. And one of the ways to do that is to have a portfolio. Like Tableau Public is free, GitHub is free. Like get on there, work with some community project, and build out that portfolio. Because I've seen it. Like I've been like a direct effect, or I've directly like seen that happen. Like my portfolio definitely I think helped me land the job that I have now. So I think that's a really easy way, free way for you to get your experience and also have something to show. The other thing I'd say is it's okay to make mistakes. Kind of goes along the lines with like it's okay to ask for help. I feel like I came into this job and I was like, I need to know everything and I need to be perfect. And I definitely wasn't. Like it wasn't that. But now looking back, I've been in my job now like a year. It's so crazy to think of all the things I didn't know and like all the mistakes I've made, but that have really allowed me to grow. And it's like if you come in and you're perfect, you're not going to learn anything. And if you already know everything that you need to know in your job, then like why are you here?
Yeah.
So I think kind of having that mindset of, you're gonna grow, you're gonna make mistakes. It's okay. Just don't make the same mistake twice is my advice,
I
career
love it.
advice early on.
Great,
Yeah.
great advice. Definitely mistakes. Call it fail forward, right? Get the mistakes, feel the
Yes.
pain, but keep it going and keep going forward. And the portfolio, huge. Try to stress that
Yes.
with so many people. Like you said, you've been a product of it. I've been a product of having a portfolio, and it's just convenient, right? I can go to this website and
Yes.
just pull up the stuff that I've done, not versus like, let me email you when I get a chance. You already have something readily available.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, all right. So, tell me about the most influential people in your life.
Whew, this is tough because, and maybe it's cliche. I'm like, I feel like everybody I've met has kind of influenced me a little bit in my life, but top three, three and a half. I'll start out with my mom. Like, she's a nurse, but she has just, I think what she really taught me is a lot of things, but ultimately, like, my drive. Like, I know that I'm a smart person, definitely not the smartest person in the room, but I will be the hardest working person, like, always giving 110%. And I think that, like, mentality, that like African work, hard work, like mentality has really just been ingrained in me, and so I'm really grateful to her for that. The other people I would say is my third grade teacher. Okay, this is really crazy, and I like just realized this. Well, I didn't realize it, but I like had like a little like, oh my god, this is wild again. I've only had one black teacher in my entire like K through college experience. And my third grade teacher, Mr. Duckett, was one of like he just changed my life in crazy ways. And now I'm like realizing it. But essentially when I was a kid, I was like really shy. And I was smart. Like I would know the answer to a question, but I wouldn't like raise my hand. Like if he called on me, I'd be like, okay, the answer is XYZ. But I would never like voluntarily be like, oh, I think
Yeah.
it's this. Because I was just afraid to look dumb. And one day I remember he told me, he was like, Zifa, I know you know the answer. Like, why don't you raise your hand? And I was like, oh, no, no, like, blah, blah, blah. He was like, no, like you need to like be okay with just like taking a chance. Like the worst thing that can happen is that you're wrong, but like it won't kill you. And I think like I heard that in the moment, and I don't know if I listened to it. But years later, like I kind of had this like epiphany where it's like, okay, number one, asking questions is not dumb. Number two, if I like volunteer an answer and it's wrong, like it's fine. Like I learned that's wrong. So I think he really ultimately like kind of changed my mindset and really started that or planted that seed of like, it's okay to try new things and like you are smart and capable. And I think for a while, like I didn't think I was. So shout out to him, Mr. Duckett, wherever you are, if you're watching this. Then the other one was my junior year business teacher, and he kind of suggested that I go to this like summer leadership academy, which ended up go leading to me going to the college I went to. And it's just like a domino effect of like, if I never went here, then this. So I'm really grateful that he kind of pushed me to do that because it was really an amazing experience. And then lastly, Beyonce, I just love her. She's influenced my concerts. My roommates would say that it's not a concert, but yeah, I just love her.
That's perfect. Great answer. Great answer. I think I definitely can count on one hand how many black teachers I've had in my experience. And I even went to an all black middle school, right? It was in
Damn.
urban area, but even still, you're good. but
Okay.
even still, there wasn't just a lot. Like I vividly remember every single black teacher that I've had. Luckily, I went to HBCU, so I did have more. So shout out to TSU. Had to rep them today.
Hey.
But I did have more. All right. So wrapping up, where can listeners find you online?
Yes, I'm almost everywhere. Mostly on Twitter. You can find me at DataZif. That's DATADZIF. Also on TikTok. That's like you're gonna get a lot of like Tableau stuff, but also Beyonce like day in the life. So that's me as a whole. I can't separate the two. And then Tableau Public, LinkedIn, Dzifa Amexo, first name, last name. And yeah, there aren't that many, so it should be really easy to find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. This was a great interview. Thank you all who watched it. If you haven't already, like, share, subscribe, and we will talk to you all next week. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.